Welcome back, everybody, to the Showdown live here from WICR today, February 27th, 2019. Last segment of the show before we before we tell you good night here from WICR again. February wrapping up and spring training is upon us. And with that, I want to try something out here on the Instagram Live. New feature where it says questions. It says tap a response to show it on screen and share it with your viewers. So we got a question here from my buddy Matthew George. If I want to see if this works. So I click the question and it's up there. Wow, that's actually pretty cool. That it's at. I'm not gonna, I mean, if you're on YouTube, you can't see this at all. But on the Instagram Live, I asked the question on my story, and now it is up on my Instagram Live. So that is a pretty cool feature. It's brand new. I did not notice that before. I saw somebody else doing it on my feed today. So I'm assuming that it is indeed a new feature here for Instagram Live. But the question for those who cannot see it is MLB World Series matchup predictions. Now, Matt, I appreciate the question, my man, but it's way too early for me to make that decision. I obviously will. I didn't make a World Series prediction last year. I don't think I may have. I did do a podcast with my buddy Ryan where we did over unders, but I don't think I made a prediction in that. And if I did, it certainly wasn't correct. I would not have picked the Dodgers and the Red Sox. But so it's a little too early for me to give my World Series prediction for this season. And again, I probably will do the over-unders again in a couple of weeks when those final lines come out. I think I finished above 500 last year. I think I might have been like 16-14 on my over-unders. My baseball one, my football ones were really bad. Like my football over-under predictions were pretty bad. But the baseball ones were a little bit better last year. But in terms of to kind of answer your question, some of the teams that I do like, obviously the Red Sox are going to be good again. Let's take it from the American League first. The Red Sox are going to be good again. The Astros should be good again as well. But the thing is, and the Yankees will obviously, I think be good as also. But the thing is not that many teams I thought in the American League side really reloaded. I think a lot of them were taking the stance of let's kind of rebuild. The Mariners dealt away a lot of their pieces. I think the A's will continue to get better. I mean, it's a team that won 97 games last year. I think the Rays will be good. I just don't know if they'll be in it towards the end. The one division that I'm going to be really keeping my eye on is obviously, as a Yankee fan, I'll be keeping an eye out on the East. But the AL Central, I think with some of the moves and losing some of the players over the past couple of years that the Indians did, again, they traded away Encarnacion. It's very, they have the pitching. They have, Francisco Lindor, Jose Ramirez. They should win this division again, but they didn't really do anything that made themselves that much better, in my opinion. Whereas but I really can't say the same for much of the other teams in the AL Central as well. I mean, that will probably be the worst division in the MLB again, is that AL Central division. In terms of the National League side, I mean, it's so wide open, in my opinion. I think a lot of it depends on where Harper goes, because I feel like the consensus now is that most of the teams that are interested are National League teams. But in the East, you really have three viable teams, I think, that could win that division. Those, of course, being the Mets, the Phillies, and the Braves. I think those are the threats. You have three legitimate teams I could see winning that division. So picking the over-unders and the division winner, and that will be tough. If you go to the Central, Brewers return a lot of guys, and they should be good again. The Cubs have been pretty consistent since about 2014-15. Can they piece that together again this year? I don't know. Some of those players are starting to get a little bit older, a little bit more past their primes. Obviously, the Cardinals are always in the thick of things as well in that division. And if we go out west, I think the West is more wide open than people give it credit for. The Rockies had a pretty good season last year. Then you also throw, obviously, the Dodgers they have won that division 6 straight times, so it may be hard to really bet against the Dodgers. But also the Diamondbacks are a very solid ball club as well. The Padres, adding Manny Machado. I mean, the corner infield, you got Hosmer and Machado. That's not a bad tandem there on the corners of the infield. So the National League, I think, is really wide open, and that's going to be the tough league to pick this year is the National League. And so that's why it's just too early for me to give out my World Series prediction, the matchup prediction. But again, I gave you some of the teams that I like. Again, the National League, it's very tough to really find a consensus favorite. I mean, in the American League, you could say that the Red Sox are legitimately the favorite, but I don't know if you could even say that about the Dodgers in the National League. So it should be a very interesting season, and I can't wait for the marathon that is Major League Baseball. Now, I teased a little bit before I went to break, but wanted to talk a little bit about why I think the Yankees are going to be a better team. Now, it'd be very easy to just kind of determine it in wins and losses, but it's hard to win 100 games. And I think some of the teams I think the Rays are going to be a little bit better, even though they did win 90 games last year. I think that the Yankees improved where they needed to improve, and that was starting pitching and bringing over James Paxton and having J Happ for a full season. I think are going to be huge. They may get Montgomery later on back in the season. So they addressed an issue and made themselves better. They added more to that bullpen. I mean, if this bullpen is going to have very high expectations, and I think for a while when the bats aren't there, because it's going to happen, Stanton's going to struggle. He's going to slump. Judge is going to slump. Sanchez is going to slump. Bird, Voit, Torres, they're all going to slump at one point. You just hope it's not all at the same time. They're going to slump. It's going to happen. But how that pitching staff responds and how they throw the baseball is going to be very important to the success of the 2019 Yankees. It's going to be very important to see how they handle sort of the rough patches and when guys go down with injuries. That's the only thing I'm a little worried about with the Yankees starters is just lack of depth. I really think that's the big thing. There's not a lot of depth there in terms of the depth of their rotation to start this season. They got a couple of guys waiting in the wings, obviously in the minors. That always happens. But depth is definitely something to keep your eye on if guys go down. I mean, CC's like 40 years old. So again, the depth is something that I will most definitely, it is a worry. Obviously losing Didi for an extended period of time is going to hurt as well. How much can you really expect out of Tulowitzki? I don't know. I think none of us really know what to expect out of a guy like Troy Tulowitzki, who played sparingly a season ago. He's past his prime. Obviously his first at bat was great. He hit a home run, but congrats. That spring training home run counts as much as I can't even think of it because it doesn't count as nothing. It counts as nothing pretty much. They signed him for nothing. I guess, he is technically competing for a spot. So there is that. I guess you could provide that slant to it. But that's going to be something. Andujar's defense, like the infield right now is more of the weakness than obviously the outfield. And I think the infield is probably the weakest link to this team right now. It's a bunch of young guys with not that experience. And if you watched the Yankees last year, you know that Didi was the anchor of that defense. He was Mr. Reliable defensively. He could always come up and get a big hit when you needed it to. So that is definitely also something to keep an eye on is how that infield gels and plays over the first couple of months. But again, it is only February 27th. There's plenty of time little too early to give a prediction on the World Series matchup, but obviously I appreciate the question greatly. So that will be the show for this week. Won't be here next week. We're going to take another week off for a special reason. Will not be here on campus. If you follow me on social media, I'm sure you will see why. So for the showdown, we say so long. I thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching, whether it's live or on replay. We'll be back in 2 weeks. I'm Austin Salato, and good night.